So Jawa. Jawa is a marketplace, much like Facebook Marketplace or eBay, but it's specifically designed for computers. Okay. Right now, they currently have like really good sets of stuff for um, like full computer builds. And then they also have really good stuff for GPUs. And in fact, like if you buy it, let's say you buy a 4060, right? They will buy your 3060 that you're selling for a guaranteed price, and they'll recertify it and then sell it to someone else. So it's a good way to like get money without having to worry about a bunch of stuff. And it's very trustworthy. Like, I'm not sponsored at all, but I have had nothing but good experiences, except for one. We'll talk about it. So recently, I bought my kids 2 computers. Let me see if I can pull those up. The person I bought them from was NextGenOEM. This lovely person right here. They did an amazing job. Basically, I bought 2 of this computer, but one of them didn't have a graphics card in it, and it's overkill for what my kids need, obviously. But I didn't want to deal with having to get them computers later on when I might not have the money. So right now, they both have crazy computers for their age. I paid about $1,400 for 2 full computers minus 1 GPU. I then bought an RX 9070 XT. It's in my computer now. I took my 3060 12 gig, put it in one of the second computer. So my daughter's computer is a little bit better than my son's. That's it. So they both got custom computers. Generally, they're supposed to come in black. I asked if they could do one in one color and one in another. She's like, we have lots of the white. So she did like an all white build for me. The only thing she didn't have was the white graphics card. So highly recommend this person. If you want to buy like honestly, they have a pretty good set of computers. My buddy Andrew, who's currently hanging out, he's looking for a computer. I'm recommending this person. And we're going to see what they have. Right. So obviously he's got a budget of like 7 to 8 or 6 to 8. Right. So they got a couple here. Let's look at the 749. So the nice thing is, if a person posts a computer on here, Jawa has somebody that goes through every listing before it gets certified to be put on here. And you can report them if you see anything suspicious, but all of the postings get reviewed before they get posted. It's like if eBay had people that actually cared, right? So let's just look at this. So this is a mid-range computer. It's got 749. This is pretty much what I bought my kids, right? It's got a 3060, so you can play almost every modern game. I used to use the 3060, and I was playing modded Skyrim and streaming at the same time with no issues. 16 gigs of RAM's fine. You could use like 32, but modern computers can run on 16 if you have a graphics card, and you're going to be fine. Already comes with Windows 11, which saves you $100. And basically, I tried to price out my own parts to make the computers for my kids, and it was literally like $200 more just for the parts without having to put it together. They did a really good job putting it together and everything. So what they do is they list literally every part that goes into it so you can check and see if it's something you want. The only thing that they can't do is sometimes specific parts are made by different manufacturers. So like a 3060. So this is a 8 gig 3060. It could be Zotac, could be MSI, but it's going to be a 3060 at least. Like it could be a fucking Founders Edition one. Doesn't matter. But if they don't know specifically what it's going to be, they have to state it, which is good. Because the last thing you want is to get a computer and you're like, oh, I wanted an AMD card, and they put an NVIDIA card in it, or other way, Intel versus AMD for CPU. They basically say it's got to have a Ryzen 5 in it, so it's going to be an AMD, and it's going to be new. If you find signs of like wear and tear when you do your inspection, you're going to end up having to do like, you can just report it and say, hey, this looks like a used part. Take some pictures, send it in. I've heard they have really good service when it comes to stuff like that. And what they do is they try to arbitrate between you and the seller, and be like, well, can you give them a discount because you did this, or like, since you can't prove that it's new, stuff like that. Another thing they do is they hold the money. So when you do a transaction, they don't get the money until 2 days after you receive the item. So I order a computer. They send it to me. It takes about a week to get here. Actually, it took a little less than a week. I received it. And from then I had 2 days to make sure everything works on it. And after that, they release the money to the seller. It's a really good system. I did feel a little rushed. What up, Zoo? Zoos? How you doing, man? We're just talking about Jawa right now. My stream's almost over, but I wanted to go over it. And I haven't heard any bad things. Now, I will say, when I was originally scoping out builds for my kids, I did run into a seller that was non-cooperative. Like, they seemed kind of mad that I was asking them to not ship to one without a graphics card. I think they thought I was like scamming them somehow. But who knows? But I just didn't buy from them. It wasn't a big deal. So let's see. So this is basically the one I got my kids. It'll be able to run whatever you want. Unless you want to, do something like do a lot of video rendering or something. It'll do that. All the YouTube videos I made were on a 3060 until recently. So, if we take a step up, let's see what we get. So this is going to be an Intel computer. So generally Intel is more stable. AMD is better for overclocking and runs hotter. It's a lot less these days. Generally, you can find an Intel and an AMD that are basically parity. It used to be that Intel was just the safer option. Once again, 16 gigs. DDR4 is okay. I think DDR5 is the current generation, or DDR6. 6 might be just graphics cards right now. But it's going to be fast enough. You're not going to notice. The only thing I will say, my kids' computers came with 512 gigabyte M.2 drives, which is a solid state drive that's, it's like 10 times faster than a thumb drive, if that makes sense. It boots almost instantly. It is reliable, and it's built straight onto your motherboard. So there's nothing like in the case that's weird. So these only have 512 gigs. Zeus, I bought two. I bought one with a graphics card, one without. And then I took my old graphics card when I bought a new one, and I put it in one of the other ones for my kids. I spoiled them, but also one of my favorite things to do with them is to play computers. So the only thing I'm seeing on here, if you're not my kids don't have anything to save. They're not old enough, right? But if you want to save stuff, either you can install an internal hard drive. You can get like a 4 terabyte hard drive for like $100 on a mechanical one, or like you can get 1 to 2 terabyte M.2 and put it on there's usually two SSD slots on the motherboard, so you can have a second one. You could boot off this one and have a 1 or 2 terabyte one that you actually put stuff on. Or what you can do, if you don't do a lot of onboard stuff, you can get a small secondary one and then have like an external hard drive. Highly recommend. So like I said, It's NextGenOEM. They do amazing work. They were great to work with, and they dealt with me being a complete spaz. So, like I said, yeah, I mean, so Zeus, basically, this is just an example. When I was streaming to YouTube, right? And playing Ultra Skyrim, which is not exactly huge, but it has so many mods that it makes it very demanding. So if you can't play 4K on it, you probably can't do a lot of 1440p, and you're going to have to buy a hard drive. But that's a really good deal. Like, it's a really good deal. So the PCIe slots right here, it's just for the graphics card. What you'll do, and I can help you do this, Andrew. When you get it, let's see if they have a picture of the. Let's look. What kind of? It's a B66M. Give me 1 second. B66M. I'm just pulling a picture of that motherboard. Images. Come on, Asus. You got this. Okay. Dang it. This is a motherboard. This is the motherboard that comes in that computer. Might be a different brand, but this is the general form factor. Okay. Oh yeah, Zeus. You don't need one as good as this to run that. You could use a fucking 1660 Super or something to run emulators. So these are your RAM slots. They all have 4. Small form factor computers only have 2 usually, so that's something to keep in mind. But the fact you can get like 64 gig sticks of RAM these days, so it's not like it's a huge deal. So what that'll do, it'll probably come with 2 8 gig sticks in the black ones. You do every other on these. And then this is an M.2 slot right here. And let's see if there's a second one. Yep, right here. So this is a heat sink. That 512 gig solid state drive is going to be under this. They do generate heat because they run so fast. They're like, it's basically storing on RAM. But it's long-term RAM, which is kind of ironic. Anyway, so this is going to be where the one is, and then you can buy a second one that's 1 or 2 terabytes and put it here. And all it does is it just fits into this little socket and then lays across the board. You put a little screw in, boom, new hard drive. Super easy. Now, if you want larger storage, all you'd have to do is get either a mechanical hard drive or a large non-on-board solid-state drive, and you just plug them into these little guys right here. Okay? Super easy. And then generally these are also SATA plugins, and they literally just run everything. And then there's a cord from your power supply that you plug into the hard drive. You plug it into here, boom, extra storage. Now, modern graphics cards are fucking huge. 3060 is not so bad. 3060 will only take up this area, like all the way back here though, like this whole rectangle. And so you have these 2 slots for stuff like an upgraded Wi-Fi card, or they make adapters that let you put more M.2s in there, so you can have shitload of memory, storage space. And so there are extra PCI slots, Andrew, but you don't really need them. You only really need that one silver one right under the M.2. And that's going to be where your graphics card goes. So, and then you've got all your AIO on here, and it's going to be all your standard like shitloads of USBs and stuff like that. And then all your graphics stuff will plug into your graphics card on the end of this. So the nice thing is they're going to put everything on there for you. You're not going to have to worry about anything. And if it messes up, you have like a couple of months to get it, Generally, I think they come with a small warranty. Let's see. Okay. ship within 1 to 2 business days, 1-year warranty. Now, I can't guarantee that they're going to accept it or they're going to fulfill it, right? I trust these people though. They did a good job. And so that was just a little bit about Jawa. Zeus, Andrew, either of you have any questions? This was kind of just to talk stuff. I was going to say, let's look at one more that's a higher price point for Vegito, because he was looking at a computer too. Let's see. They have these ones, and then they have a jump, basically. I think it's $16.99, which is not necessary. It'll have probably an AM5 board, bigger power supply, a much better graphics card. This is until recently, this was one of the better ones you could get. Now the new generation's out, so these are going to get cheaper, but it's still really good. It's still going to be way better than you need. From my experience, Zeus, right now, buying one is cheaper. Yeah, I know. That's why I went through, and the M.2 stuff has kind of revolutionized it. So this one's one that could play like 1440p to 4K, probably low end 4K for games that aren't that demanding, but it could also play 1440p games pretty well. This is what I'd say if you have the money, Vegito, this would be what you get. But I will say, if you get one like that $700 or $800 one, I can help you get the parts to upgrade it later. Like I can help you with the process of figuring out what parts would be an upgrade. Vegito, I'm just what I'll do is when I finish the VOD tonight, I'll cut it and put this up as a separate video. Yeah, so there are two different versions of the 3060. The 3060 is what you're going to want, right? The 3060 is, let's go to GPUs and I'll talk to you about real quick. Like I said, they do a shitload of stuff with GPUs. So if you just want a graphics card, they have shitloads of used ones that are going to be in good condition for reasonable prices. Anyway, 3060, it comes in standard, which is 8 gig, or TI, which is 12. All the difference is the 8 gig might get bogged down when you're playing a RAM consuming game. It's going to it'll probably hit that 8 gigs. It can hit that maximum. So I'll give you an example. When we're playing modded Minecraft, it's actually pretty consuming when you have like shaders and shitloads of stuff going on. And so it could use up all 8 gigs that are on the graphics card. And in that case, it would have to start pulling from the actual RAM, which would take that away from the CPU. Now, it's not really going to make a lot of difference. It makes a lot of difference to people like me. I make videos, right? And so the videos use a shitload of RAM. So I actually just had a 7900 XT. It was very fast. It had 20 gigs, but it was like worse on the graphics end, but much better on the RAM end. And then the one I have now is 16, so it's a slightly less RAM, but it's way better on the graphics. Zeus, I watch a lot of computer stuff. I've built several computers. I've always loved it. Yeah, so let's look. Let's look at that one computer. I was actually looking at this. Let's say this 821, right? It's got that Intel. That's fine. Actually, you know what? I don't like Intel. Fuck them. Let's look at this one that I got for my kids, right? What board did it have in it? B450. B450M. Right? Yep, B450M. Images. Okay. And these are just makers. So each different manufacturer. So there's like I said, there's this is a tough card. Then there's like Gigabyte and MSI, Asus. All of those have like their own version of this same board with a little bit different stuff on it. But all of them have to have like, there's like universally agreed upon things they have to have. And so they have to do it. Zeus, the problem with you buying a used PC is that you're buying all used parts usually. I would say I would buy, like if I had to, I would say to buy like try to get a newer computer or with new parts. And then for the stuff like the graphics card, that's really expensive. That's where you go used because it's only one piece, right? And so if something goes out, you know it's probably the graphics card because that's the used part. All the other stuff is going to be covered by warranty. So at least you'd have that. Let me see if I can zoom in. Yeah, we can. So this is the board you're going to get, right? It's still got all the RAM slots like we were looking at. It's got two PCI slots and one PCI Express slots, and then it's got one PCI slot right there. It probably has just one M.2 right there. So it's got one of those onboard ones, so you can still use that. It looks to be about the same generation as mine. Let's see. CPU support. What kind of CPU does it use? AMD AM4. So this is the same type of socket that I use. I was actually looking at graphics cards or CPUs earlier. So like it's going to come with a fairly low brand or kind of not weak, but not great CPU. And then what you're going to do is you'll be able to go on to like Newegg and get something like this. That's still not that much money because it's a relatively old style of CPU, but this is going to give you like 10 to 15% more performance when you need it. So there's quite a bit of room to increase. So like, and this isn't even the best card in the or CPU in the group. It's just a good one. In fact, so I found this article. It's literally like it lists like a ranking of all the different AM4 ones. What kind of environment do you live in, Zeus? Is it humid? But they like literally break down which one's the best for what. So if you're just gaming, you would want to get one of these. Nothing with an X3D is going to be cheap. Just warning you. They're the best, but they're also very expensive. But like this one is what I think we're looking at here, right? 5800 XT. Got too many tabs open. No, this is the 5700X. But you literally just look them up on Newegg or this is a little bit of an old list, but Florida, I think you'd be fine. Computers. So let's look at the case on this one. So if we look at the case, right, it's got this mesh panel in the front. Okay, I will, Andrew. It's got a mesh panel in the front that lets air in. These are probably intake fans, so they pull in air from the side. Air is funneled back over the CPU, which is right here. This fan spins outward, spins air out. This one is a fan that sucks it out. Okay? It's made to be basically not perfect, but a very good wind tunnel. And so it's very, they do a lot of research when they make cases. That's why some cases are so expensive. And so, yeah, I mean, you're going to, depending on the case, it's going to it'll run. Yeah. It'll only ever run if it needs to. So it might be that if it's idling, all the fans will be off. But if it sees that it's hot because it's got internal temperature sensors, it will actually turn the fans on itself. And it should only do that when you're running it. So, you know, I generally just use sleep mode. Like after an hour of not using it, it'll turn off. So yeah. Okay, let's see what we got here. Will it let me? No, I don't want to block him. I want to use his link. There it is. Okay. 3060 Ryzen 5. So this is the same generation of one I have. Good RAM. Terabyte in Royal Darkness. I don't care about the Royal Darkness part. This case looks okay. I don't care about the RGB. Fancy cables, that's a bad sign. Generally, if the people focus on aesthetics, it's not great. You'd rather, or at least I would personally rather have a computer that doesn't look as pretty, but has better parts. Whereas these people paid for cable mod cables, which are expensive. $679. I wonder what their shipping costs are. A 3060 12 gig, that's fine. 32 gigs of memory, that's good. 4 8 gig sticks is not great. I would much rather have two 16s. Basically, the more RAM slots you're using, the more it has to like conference across all of them. But it looks like they have 3D printed covers on them. Not a fan. I mean, they made it look really pretty. I'll give them that. And the parts list is really good. 500 watt power supply might be a little small, but I think it'll be fine. And it's got Windows 11. I mean, yeah, I think this would be a good deal. Let's look at some of the reviews. They got quite a few reviews. Good score. Okay, so this is a good one. Card got damaged on the way, but they replaced it. PC arrived on time and functional. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it looks fine. They've got plenty of testimonial. And I mean, Andrew, you and I know this pretty well. Andrew and I run a Etsy store together. Yeah, so this purple part here is 3D printed. They make like people who are very ambitious with 3D printing will make a 3D printed enclosure for everything, and including the RAM. The only thing I'm worried about is the heat on the RAM because it's covered. Anyway, Andrew and I run an Etsy store. Having a rating above a 4.5 is very hard. He's only got 26 reviews, but that's 26 people spending hundreds of dollars. People are when it comes to computers, people are very finicky. If they get a bad product, even if it's not the person's fault, they're going to get pissed. But it looks like the person has some pretty good reviews. You could just take it off. I'm wondering where they're getting the parts from that they can sell it this cheap. That's my only thing. Because it's a bigger hard drive than the other computer. It's probably a little bit slower RAM, but it's more RAM. That's cheap CPU. Let's see. What was it? Ryzen 5 5500. So yeah, that's $83. That's half the cost of the one that came in mine. What did this one come with? It comes with a 5500 too, so I mean, it looks like that's probably what you're going to get at those price points. So it looks like you found a really good deal. Are you talking about the ones that have like screens inside the computer where they can play stupid little videos and stuff? Not a fan. If you got that much money, buy something better. I'd much rather, like I said, I'd much rather spend money on parts. My computer is under my desk. It's covered in my vinyl stickers that we make. I can't even see the RGB. I've never really been a fan of it. But I mean, these people seem to know what they're doing. I wonder if they have different colors than just, I love purple. It's my favorite color. But I wonder if they would have other colors if you'd talk to them. They probably do. And Jawa does have a system where, like, if, let's say, for my example, I wanted to buy one full computer and then one without a GPU, they were easily able to make a listing for that, like we do in our Etsy store. So like if somebody wants a shirt, but it's in a size we don't usually carry, we could just make a new listing and give it to them that way. Jawa allows them to do that too. And so it's just, yeah. The 3D covers, I think you could just take them off. I don't think it's probably not, it's probably a fitting over the actual card. It is right next to a fan. This is a fan right here. So it's going to pull air. These are going to pull air in right over here. So it's got it's got 3 fans in the front. These are going to pull air in over the CPU out through the back. So even if they are covered like they are, they're still going to get quite a bit of airflow. Maybe not. I would take them off, but I mean, or you could just ask them not to have them on there. Have a good night, Zeus. Okay. Did that answer your questions, Andrew? Is there anything else you wanted to ask about? Or did you want to look at other deals or something? I mean, they have like all sorts of stuff. They're trying to branch out into peripherals, but I would mainly stick with, if you're going to buy from here, I'd mainly stick with the actual computer or components. I've never dealt with any of this stuff. Okay. Well, guys, I appreciate you hanging out, especially for this last little segment where I was just talking about random shit the entire time. Um, same, Andrew. I want you guys to have a great night. I will see you all later. Be safe. See you on Friday for Borderlands 2 as a group. If you own Borderlands 2 and you want to hang out, we're playing it. I'll see y'all later. Mouth is out.